as I started to say just a couple of moments ago, simple interest versus compound interest. The real world does not work on simple interest. Very few things do. The real world works with compound interest, and it is either the greatest blessing financially that you can know, most likely, is somewhere along the lines, if you come into a lot of money, compound interest was involved, or it's the biggest curse, because credit cards and mortgages and things like that work with compound interest. You'll learn more about the negative aspects of compound interest. What I really want to talk about today are the positive aspects of compound interest. And then, next lesson, we're going to compute a lot of compound interest. We won't do that during today. Today, all I want to do is express to you the difference between them and hint at the miracle that compound interest can be for you and just how essential it is for financial independence as you age a little bit. Okay, so simple interest. Simple interest is the interest earned on principal only. That's all you earn simple interest on. But the compound interest, that's earned on principal and any previous interest that you have earned. So here's a graph of simple interest, principal times rate times time. And for 0 years, you put $100 in, and they're just saying, for argument's sake, that you earn 10%. So in 1 year, you earn 100 plus another 10, which is 110. And the next year, you only earn the principal or the interest on this principal again. So you earn another $10. And then if you went into years 3, 4, and 5, you would earn another $10 in each of those years, because the interest is only earned off of the principal. And you can see when you do a graph like this that the line is pretty much going straight through here, and that's what simple interest is. It is linear in its aspect from year 1 to year 5 to 10 to 15 to 20. Okay, that's a simple interest growth. But compound interest works very, very differently. For example, if you invested $5,000 for 20 years at 7% interest rate for simple interest, you would have $12,000 in the account. If you took the same exact $5,000, you put it in for the same exact 20 years, and you did it at the same exact interest rate of 7%, you would have $19,348. So with simple interest, 5,000 turns into 12,000. With compound interest, 5,000 turns into almost 20,000. Compound is much more powerful. Now, where are we going with this? See, compound interest earns interest on top of interest. See, when you do linear, you only calculate the interest based on this lower level of principal that you put in. So this level here, this height here, is all you ever earn interest on when you are doing simple interest. When you're doing compound interest, so here's your first calculation, then you earn some interest. Here it is represented by the extra height in the dollars. Now you do the formula for interest again on top of this. Now you get here. So the interest is included, the interest you've already earned is included in the next calculation. So the stack gets even higher. See, here it grew, whatever that is, an inch, inch and a half. Here it grew 3.5, 4 inches. The next one would probably grow 7.5, 8 inches, because each time you're including the interest. Here's a really good example. If you do simple interest, the principal that you put in the account stays the same all the time. The principal never changes. If you do simple interest, that's a linear graph. You can see a growing straight line. That's why we call it linear. And it is getting bigger. But with compound interest, you're earning interest on top of interest, and you can see how much faster the compound interest is growing. So if that compound interest works for you, this is a beautiful thing. Now, this is a little bit before your time, but you probably heard of her. There's a girl by the name of Paris Hilton. And do you know where Paris Hilton got all of her money from? Paris Hilton got all of her money from like her great-great-grandpa. Great-great-grandpa opened the chain of Hilton hotels, and I think they own the Marriott and a bunch of other name brands as well. Well, that great-great-grandpa was a really smart guy, and he put some money aside in these funds called trusts for his future generations. And that's why Paris Hilton is referred to as a trust fund baby, because she may choose to work, and she can design some clothes and star on some TV show every now and then. But she has so much money in these accounts that they earn an enormous amount of interest every single day. And she never needs to work the rest of her life because they're generating interest on top of interest on top of interest. So great-great-grandpa Hilton, years ago, he put the principal in, which was blue. But this money's been in that account for so long, and it's been earning so much interest that it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. How fast does it get big? Well, look at this graph. The yellow line is linear growth. It is basic, simple interest. The red line is exponential growth. It is compound interest. Now, just to give you an idea, the same amount of money, $10,000 invested, exponentially, I'm not sure exactly how many years this is, but I'm guessing it's in 5-year intervals, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. In linear growth, it's worth $34,000. In exponential growth, it's worth $108,000, or pretty much $109,000. Now, you see how fast it's starting to grow? 5 years later, it's going to be worth, oh Lord, you're almost doubling every 5 years. So 5 years later, it'd probably be worth $175,000, and 5 years later, $350,000, and 5 years later, probably pushing somewhere in the neighborhood of $600,000. And then after that, 1.1 million every 5 years. It's just growing faster and faster and faster, doubling and doubling and doubling. So great-grandpa Hilton, he put this money in that account, I don't know, 125 years ago? That's had a lot of money to double, a lot of time to keep doubling and doubling and doubling. And Paris is the beneficiary of that. So if you ever hear of someone who is a trust fund kid, then these are kids who have so much money in the family that they can just live off of the interest that this is generating because it's been there long enough. All right, what are the key points behind simple interest and compound interest? Simple interest is interest on principal only, and it's I equals PRT. Compound interest is interest on the principal and the interest on the interest. It is the key to financial independence. And in our next lesson, we will calculate compound interest, and then we'll really start putting it to use. But before that, I'm going to want you to do some thinking about your life. So tonight's homework assignment is a little bit unexpected, or attendance participation assignment, whatever you want to call it. What it's going to be all about is a couple of simple interest questions, very easy. And then I want you to think about where you want to be with your life in the future, what some of your goals are. And then we're going to bring that in and start using that when we start talking about financial freedom and independence based on how you manage your money for the long term. Okay? All right.